Hello and welcome to CIPD Bitesize. In this video, we're going to be looking at a 5 CL02 unit evidence-based practice AC1.1. So the very first question of AC1.1, and as always with Bitesize, AC1.1 is completely free, and we will go through the unit and some of the criteria in the scenario in detail so that you've got everything you need to be successful in this. Okay, let's head on. So about this unit assessment addresses the significance of capturing robust quantitative and qualitative evidence. This is one where I'm going to stumble off words all the way through. I can feel it. To inform meaningful insight and influence critical thinking. It focuses on analysing evidence through ethical lens to improve decision making, and how to measure the impact for people practice is essential in creating value. So, the task, you've got two tasks. The first one requires you to answer 7 questions referring to the case study. Your answer should respond accurately to the question and should be informed by wider reading and key academic texts, articles, and relevant publications. For the second task, you must complete a data analysis and make recommendations based on your findings. Please ensure that your work is presented clearly, typically using subheadings or AC references to link your response to the questions. What they mean by that is when you start to write your response, you go AC 1.1, top right-hand corner there, and then you write your response underneath. If you exceed the word count by more than 10%, your work will be referred, so don't break the word count. So we're going to have some word count plans as we go through this. References should be included within your answers unless the question specifically states that they're not required. So a little bit more clarity from CIPD on this one. References are essential. References should be included within answers unless it states otherwise. So make sure that you're thinking 1, 2 references. How do I prove this? What do I do to show this? What do I do to show that? Now, the case study. Technivara design and engineering components for the electronics industry, supplying parts for the computer, electronics, medical, and automotive sectors. The company was founded in 1970 by Bill Swanke. By Bill Swanke, and is currently experiencing his 16th consecutive year of growth. He is going to be swanky with all that growth, isn't he? So the board now feels it's time to expand the business. Bill is very involved in the day-to-day running of the company, which he likes to run in a traditional style. He tends to avoid changes to existing workforce practices. Sue Young is the people practice manager at Technivara, and although she has been with the company for 8 years, she has continued with many of the people practices that her predecessor has implemented, many being paper-driven. Sue is aware if the company doesn't change some of its practices, it will be susceptible to risky decision-making because the current approach to capturing and measuring people practices is weak and lacking a data-driven evidence. She knows that you, as a people practice advisor, have more up-to-date experience using evidence-based practice effectively, and she has asked you to help her with understanding of evidence-based practices applied within the organization. She needs to provide Bill Swanke and the board and the rest of the people practice team with a persuasive case to improve current approaches, as these are archaic and inadequate to meet the demands of the modern forward-thinking workplace. Sue has asked you to complete 2 tasks. Firstly, respond to the 7 questions below, and then complete a data analysis to make recommendations based on your findings. On the 7 questions, this is currently the marking guidance as per CIPD. By all means, have a pause, have a read, but I'm going to focus on 1s and I'm going to focus on 3. So 3, demonstrate a good level of understanding skill required to meet the AC. This includes a good example or examples where required to support your answer, includes evidence and a good level of reading and research to inform your answer, includes good use of at least 1 reference for each assessment criteria, at least. Makes good reference to the case study and directly addresses the question task is expressed. Has a good format or structure which meets the requirements set out in the brief. At least 1 reference, addresses the verb, addresses all elements of the question. That's what they're asking you to do here. That's what we need to ensure that we do. And then, if you miss any of those, you're going to refer on the assessment. Now, just to remind you, if you're not familiar, you have to get at least a 2 on every single AC. It's not cumulative that you've got to get, the majority 2s, and if you get a couple of 1s, it doesn't matter. You have to pass every single question with a minimum of a 2. So if you're going for a 3 and you slightly miss, you get a 2. But we're going to be tactical with our word count. We're going to be tactical with where we do our research. We're going to be tactical how we approach this in a way where we're going to be going, right, well, we're going to focus on what the response is for 3. And if we have excess word count, then we might shoot for a few 4s. But if we shoot for a 3 and we miss slightly, we're still going to get a 2. Don't expect to go through the CIPD qualification and not get a 1 somewhere. At some point, you'll misread a verb. At some point, you'll misread the question. It's not the end of the world. You'll never be sat in an interview where someone goes, so AC 1.2 of the 2025 assessment criteria, what score did you get? Nobody cares. If you get 2s all the way through, you get the same qualification as someone who got 4s all the way through. I'm just pointing that out because I know many of you will stress over, I need to get 4s, I need to get 4s. It's tricky to get 4s because the word count is very, very tight for 4s. It's designed that way. So, gun for 3s, gun for some 4s, that's okay. So, as we said, AC 1.1. AC 1.1, evaluate, that is your verb. Remember, verb, you have to address the verb. The concept of evidence-based practice, EBP, providing 2 examples of where Technivara could use it to ensure sound decision-making people practice. So you're evaluating, and evaluation isn't just explaining 2 things that they could do. This is where you're trying to explain the pros and the cons of different things. You're evaluating by going, currently it's doing this, and it could progress to this. This would provide sound decision-making process. Here is a reference in the citation to back up that it's not just my opinion. This is a matter of fact as evidenced by data, research, and evidence, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so again, if you're evaluating, you're giving your views, yes, but you're also backing your views up with evidence, references, and citations. So the way that we recommend that you go about this question is we've created a bit of a study plan when it comes to the CIPD Level 5 qualification. So the question is AC 1.1, your verb is evaluate. Is the scenario required? Yes. If you remember in the 3, it says that you have to refer to the scenario. What is your word count? Well, totally you have 2,900 words for questions 1 to 7. That is 414 words per AC. So if you break that question down, you've got to evaluate. So you're looking at the pros and cons of 2 ways that they can improve. That's potentially 4 action points if you think about it. If you're looking at pros, you're looking at cons, you're looking at number 1 to improve decision making, looking at number 2 to improve decision making. So evaluate the concept of evidence-based practice. So that's action point 1, and provide 2 examples of where Technivara could use it to ensure sound decision making. So evaluate, action point 1. Example 1, example 2, that's 3 action points, and you need a reference for each action point because that shows that it's not just you going, I think it's this, it's I think it's this, and evidence supports my thinking. That's how I will break down the question. Now, here is an example of a study plan filled out. So you're looking at 1.1, your verb is evaluate, your scenario required, yes. What is your word count? Well, your word count for this is 414. Action point 1, action point 2, action point 3. By all means, pause the video, just jot it on a pad. You don't need this presentation layout-y thing, it's there. Just question, scenario. Again, check it off as you do it. As long as you're clear in your mind as this is how I'm going to approach this question, these are the action points that I'm breaking it into, these are the references that I'm going to use, that's fine. Whether you jot this in a pad, whether you create something like this, doesn't really matter. It's just as long as you have a structure and a plan for your answer, that will help you get through. Now, we do have some recommended reading, however, sort of help you get along. Some things that we think, well, actually, if you give this a bit of a read, this might help you get to a sort of the answer that you're looking for. And for this, we've got CIPD fact sheet, evidence-based practice. Evidence-based practice module, you've been asked to evaluate the concept of evidence-based practice. CIPD love CIPD, which is one of my favorite phrases because CIPD do love it when you reference CIPD. They put a lot of money into research. People often ask, well, what's CIPD membership spent on? A lot of it's spent on research to improving working lives and giving people information to make better decisions. CIPD articles, building an evidence base. Obviously, this is what you're being asked to do with Technivara. Obviously, research that. AI/HR, what is evidence-based practice? Sometimes it's good to get an external view on what they think evidence-based practice is. Compare it to CIPD. Look at what connects, look at what disconnects. Again, you've been asked to evaluate, so let's look at multiple different sources. Comes this. There are a million more. Some might come to your head, oh, I want to look at this, oh, I want to look at this case study, oh, I want to look at this survey. Absolutely fine. Look at as much as you can to sort of help inform your question. Now, as always, what we tend to do is give you a bit of a fictitious scenario just to try and help you contextualize the question a little bit and just help you understand it in a little bit more depth. And for this, we're going to turn you into a HR detective. You're investigating a crime. I mean, he's pointing that way and the feet are going that way, so it's not a great image. But anyway, so the detective is the human resources or people professional. The crime scene is a workplace issue such as low morale, high turnover, poor performance. Evidence is data research insights gathered from various sources, including employee surveys, performance reviews, industry benchmarks. So if you think about the investigation process for this, HR detective is gathering evidence. The detective people manager collects information from various sources to understand the root cause of the issue. They analyze the evidence. They collect data and evidence to identify patterns, trends, and potential solutions. They formulate a hypothesis based on evidence, and detective develops theories in the hypothesis to cause the issue. And then they test the hypothesis. The detective conducts experiments or trials, implementing new policies, programs to test their hypothesis. And then they draw conclusions based on that. So the detective will analyze the results of their experiments, draw a conclusion about the effectiveness of their solution. So just as a detective relies on evidence to solve a crime, a people manager should rely on evidence-based practices to address workplace issues. By systematically gathering, analyzing, and applying evidence, the managers can make informed decisions and are more likely to be effective and sustainable. So if you think about the things that you do need to consider when you do stuff like this is the quality of the evidence, contextualization. Said I was going to mess up word. Contextualization. It's all very well and good to look at some data, but sometimes you're looking at data through a lens that is particularly wrong. So you might be looking at leaver data and it might be particularly high, and you go, well, we've got a lot of people leaving, but it might be due to a different circumstance. It could be a competitor setting up and poaching everyone and paying people a load of money. So it's not a problem that you've got as a business. It's an external factor. So again, understanding the context of the question and ethical considerations. It's not just about doing whatever you can to get a number as high as possible, retention as high as possible. That's fine. Pay everyone what they want and stuff like that. There's an ethical part of that because there's that equal pay if you just pay people who ask for it. So your job is to research evidence, understand what your core data is, the context of that core data, and then perform experiments. Because if you change 10 things at once, how do you know what's working and what's not working? How do you know whether that changes the number? If you change one or two things, you can see what works well and what works badly, and then you can make refinements. And that's kind of what this is pointing you towards as a particular thing. Absolutely best of luck in this one, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care.